very crucial time. Um, like Mr. Vinod said, it is a very crucial time of the evening for any parents, that to the last day of half term. So I really appreciate you coming at this time, and I sincerely hope that you feel it's worth your time by the end of this hour. I will also like to say I haven't prepared any lecture or any slides for this session. I really just came along to interact with the community and understand what is it that you would like to know. I was saying to Mr. Vinod, it is so easy to find the differences or similarities between autism and ADHD on Google. You type it there and you find a very simple list. So I don't want to repeat what is obvious, but I will very much welcome questions from Mr. Vinod first. So he will moderate the session by asking me focused questions, and I can share my expertise. And yeah, let's see. I would like to know how I can be of use to this group because I recently joined this wonderful group. So I want to be able to help. So today is the first ice-breaking session because I want to understand what this group's needs are. So, Mr. Vinod, you be the facilitator, you be the moderator, and you tell me what will you like me to talk about.
Yeah, like the initial idea was to have talk about similarities and
Okay,
differences of
I can
autism
start
and
off.
ADHD. So it would be good for parents whose children are not autistic or
Mm.
not having ADHD, so they will learn. And parents who already have, then we will go through the Q&A, and parents can also put in their questions in the chat box, which we will take up later. So that way, it will be a good startup if you give some basic understanding of and the similarities or differences just to start with.
Sure.
So, yeah, please. Thank you.
I will, can I just also very quickly ask? Okay, Mr. Lokesh is putting a question. Can I also very quickly ask there's a very small number of parents here. What type of special needs does your child or a family member has? Because then can I very quickly just ask, like if you can unmute yourself for just a few seconds and tell me what type of special need is evident in your family?
Um, Dr. Shilpi, myself Prashant.
Hello,
Yeah, it's good to meet you.
same here.
And Mr. Vinod, it's good that you're organizing these kind of sessions. My child is 6 year old. He was born with cytomegalovirus that had resulted in his hearing. He has got profound hearing loss on both ears. So he had his cochlear implants when he was 2.5 years ago. Sorry, when he was 2.5 years old. He has also got global development delays. Uh, this has also resulted because of the CMV virus at birth. Uh, I'm not sure if whether he falls under the autism spectrum, but his development is very slow. His especially the cognitive skills. His behavior is as
Yeah,
good.
thank you. Now, I will link global development delay to autism and ADHD when I talk about it and hearing loss. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next person.
So, I'll go with, but there will be a lot of common with like other people.
Okay,
Parents have
so
said,
I think Mr. Vinod just wants me to talk about autism and ADHD. So, autism is a social communication disorder. I'm sure all of you know. What it means in lay terms is everyone okay with Hindi or should I just speak in English? Does everyone understand Hindi? Whoever does not, please just raise your hand or tell me.
Yeah,
You
I'm
don't.
from Pakistan, so I can't understand Hindi, yeah, like proper Hindi. But I can understand Urdu type Hindi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
better speak in
Indian
English,
movies type,
please.
yeah.
I
Sorry,
will
better
speak in
speak in
English.
English
That's
for
fine.
everybody.
I will
Yeah.
just speak in English because in my experience, Asian community sometimes wants to understand it Hindi. That's fine. I can stick to English. So, social communication disorder basically means that a child or an adult has some level of social difficulty. And communication is inevitably a part of your social behavior. You cannot socialize without communicating. So, if a child has speech delay or cannot speak, they cannot socialize. So that's why social communication. Now, it does not mean that it is always an impairment. there could be a delay, there could be an awkwardness, or there could be an impairment. So, three kinds of social impairments can be there: a delay, that it will catch up, but a 10-year-old might be socializing like a 6-year-old. Now, how does a 6-year-old socialize? A 6-year-old is very, if they want something, they will roll on the floor of a supermarket and say, I want it right now. They are not very socially conscious. Whereas a 10-year-old becomes more socially aware and they will be more like, don't embarrass me. Don't say anything to me. Don't scold me. So there will just be a delay, but they will catch up. Impairment means there are some aspects of their social behavior which does not develop until very much later in life. So, examples would be they never develop empathy. I don't like to use the word never actually, so I will correct myself here. They take a very, very, very long time to develop empathy, and a lot of effort is required. Like they may develop empathy after they turn 50 or so. So, empathy is where you can understand other person's pain and comfort them. Now, you cannot socialize if you are not empathic. So, that is a very important skill. Second is communication. Communication is where a very important part of communication is listening and showing interest in the other person. You cannot communicate if you are only interested in talking about yourself. And that is a feature of autism. People with autism only like to talk about themselves. They will either not talk at all. So they will either give, if they are not interested in you or the topic, they will either stay very quiet, just nod, shake their head, give one word responses like, yeah, no, not interested. You must be thinking sounds like a teenager. Or if they are interested, they will go on and on and on and not give you a chance to talk back. So that will lead to a lack of communication. Their peers, their age mates will get bored with them. They will get fed up. Like they're like, you don't talk about anything. Unless their age mates or anyone is equally interested in them or in the topic that they like. So, for example, if a person with autism really likes Roblox or Barbies or cars or dinosaurs, and they find another child who's equally interested in a similar topic, these two will make very good friends. But then, problem would come with sharing. They don't like to share. Now, other than social communication, and of course, this then leads to difficulties with friendships and relationships. So, when we diagnose autism, there are three social criteria which have to be ticked. So, one of them is social reciprocity, like I said, communication, being able to listen to others, take interest in others, do back and forth conversations. Second is non-verbal. Non-verbal is that they cannot make, so non-verbal means of communication are of various types: eye contact, your gestures. If you're very stiff, like some people would put their arms in front of their body or just move away from you or be very close to you, people with autism may lack an awareness of personal space, especially children. Some children will come and jump on you a lot, even at an older age, 7, 8, 9. And that's not appropriate. That will put off their peers and lot of adults. Or eye contact is a very common difficulty with autism. Remember, it could be too much eye contact. They are so aware of this difficulty that they might stare at the person. And that will also be awkward. The person will be like, it becomes awkward if person is staring too hard at you. But an autistic person might be trying too hard to show that, look, I am interested in you. So three social criteria. One is reciprocity, second is nonverbal, and third is friendships and relationships, which also includes empathy. So we have to tick these three criteria no matter if we have a 6-year-old or a 60-year-old. It has to be a lifetime of difficulties. Now, you can imagine how complex would a 60-year-old's assessment would be because we have the whole life to cover. But it's also easier sometimes. A 6-year-old, rather difficult because they have hardly had any experience in life. For autism, there are 4 other criteria, which are called RRBs. Out of 4, only 2 needs to be ticked. One is repetitive behaviors and repetitive speech. Many children like to line up toys. They will either line up or organize them in certain categories according to their color or size or things like that. And they will repeat the whole thing again. Like every time they are doing the same thing over and over and over again. So there is a repetitiveness in their behavior, in their speech as well. They repeat themselves often. Second is sensory issues. Sensory is a very vast issue. They might like to touch and feel certain things. If they go to superstore, they are touching and feeling everything. Or they may come and stroke your face or your arm, or they just like physical contact. They might keep a flurry blanket or a soft toy or cuddle their toys or pets. So tactile. It could be smells that they have a very strong sense of smell. They can't tolerate your perfume. They won't eat food if it doesn't smell right, or they may actually have a meltdown or a panic attack if there is some noise or smell around them. So either their senses will be heightened or they will be underdeveloped. Third is obsessions and fixations. They will have very, very strong interest. It could be just for a couple of weeks, couple of months, couple of years, but they will be fixated on a couple of things. They may become a little expert on it, and then they might grow out of it. So fixations can be of 2 types, one that lasts in phases, and the second which lasts their lifetime. And lastly, we have resistance to changes and rituals. So they are very rigid. They are not spontaneous. If you tell them, come on, let's do this, they can't do it. You need to prepare them. If they are in the middle of playing a game or doing something, you can't just tell them to leave it and come and do something. They have to finish what they are doing. They have their own ways of doing things, which parents might sometimes think they are being rebellious, they are trying to disobey us, they don't want to listen to us, but they just have this thing in their brain. It gets glued to something and they have to finish what they are doing. So, this is autism. Now, ADHD, there is an overlap between autism and ADHD. So, let me first explain what ADHD is and then I will explain the overlap. ADHD may or may not have any social communication difficulty. Children, yes, they might have social communication difficulty because ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Attention deficit means they have fleeting attention. Their attention just changes every few seconds, every few minutes. So imagine if you're talking to someone. So their communication difficulty will arise out of their lack of attention, not out of lack of interest. An autistic person lacks interest in others. An ADHD person may be interested in you, but they just can't keep their attention on it. They need too much stimulation. And secondly, hyperactivity. Hyperactivity is not only about their physical behavior, hyperactivity is about them being, it's like a surge of energy in their head. They are like a motor running 1,000 miles an hour. So they just need constant flow of thoughts. So while talking, they may be talking too fast. They may interrupt you. They can't listen to you. And that will lead to communication difficulties. So you see the difference. Social and communication difficulties from an autism point of view is because they either don't understand the other person, they can't make eye contact or understand other person's intention, or they lack the interest in other person. They are just socially aloof. ADHD person, they want to interact, they are interested, but they either cannot keep their attention or their mind is racing ahead of them. So that is one difference. Now, ADHD is mainly applicable to academics. And one very important difference between ADHD and autism is ADHD can be treated by medicine, but there is no medicine for autism. Autism is a purely behavioral disorder. Only way to treat autism is through behavioral therapy, speech therapy, sensory therapy. But for ADHD, there is medication. Now, I don't want to put my personal views across about medication, but what I will say is be very careful before you go down that route. I know there's some questions are coming up in the chat, and Mr. Vinod will, I'm sure, direct me to those questions later. Let me just finish talking about it first. With ADHD comes sleeping difficulties, very common. Now, sleeping difficulties can be common with autism as well. Now, there is a difference. A child with ADHD struggles to fall asleep because they are not tired enough. Their body needs more stimulation. They still have lots of energy left in them. And when do we sleep? We sleep when we are tired, right? So it's like an upgraded version of your phone that has a longer battery life. Look at ADHD like that. Whereas autism, it could be they can't sleep because they are sensory overloaded, that they are hearing too much, they are smelling too much, their senses are heightened, or it's their anxiety that is not letting them feel calm. Whereas for person with ADHD, it's that they feel, a child once explained to me, it was actually a 12-year-old, so almost a teenager. He said, I can't sleep because I feel like I'm on a motorway running at 90 miles an hour, and there are cars next to me 90 miles an hour, just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. That's how I feel when I try to go to bed. Whereas a child with autism feels like this. They are just like, I feel like I'm in a dark room all by myself. It's too dark in here. There are some strange noises coming. I'm feeling really scared. I don't feel safe enough to fall asleep yet. You see the difference? But at the end of the day, it's a sleep difficulty. Now, melatonin. Melatonin is a medication for sleep difficulties, which is also tied in with ADHD medication often. So what melatonin does is it is more benefit. It is given to any person, may it be a person with autism or a person with ADHD. But melatonin, what it basically does is it calms down your brain. It stops that overactivity in the brain. So it is very important to get the right diagnosis before you go for that melatonin. To help a child with autism with their sleep difficulty, I suggest a good sleep hygiene, a nice routine, because they like structure. They thrive on it. You create a sleep hygiene, a routine, a ritual for them. Do it for 21 days consistent, and their sleep will improve. Identify their sensory needs. Some children with autism will like to have white noise in the background before they go to bed. Some will say, leave the light open. Some will say, I like the room to be really cold. Others will say, I like the room to be really warm. You cannot help them until you understand what their sensory need is. It's similar to having allergies in your body. Your body is flaring up, but you don't know if it is peanuts, if it is milk, if it is some other form of food product. And you are just shooting in the dark. So you need to identify what type of allergy it is so you can remove that from their diet. Similarly, for a child with autism, you need to understand what type of sensory need it is so you can adapt the environment around them and make it more comfortable. Believe it or not, a child with autism or an adult with autism or an adolescent with autism will not go to sleep if they think their pillow is not aligned properly on their bed, or if the duvet that they have on their body is not comfortable enough. Weighted blanket is something that really helps children with autism, people, let me say people with autism in general. So that's a sensory need. Some of them like pressure applied on their body. Like, I don't know if you have come across, but some of them ask you to hug them tightly. Give me a tight cuddle. But cuddles are also on their terms because they have aversion to physical contact. For a person with autism, it is their way or the highway, extended to almost every area of their life. Now, either you can fight it or you can learn to adapt around it. For a person with ADHD who has sleep difficulties, suggestion is we tell parents to get a treadmill in the house, get a small trampoline, get them to burn out that energy as much as you can. Take them out for a walk, engage them in physical activities. But again, you wouldn't know what to do unless you know what the need is. Now, another very interesting difference between autism and ADHD is age. Autism can be diagnosed from 3. ADHD cannot be diagnosed before 6. In autism, speech delays are very, very common. And in fact, it makes it obvious that it is autism if there is a speech and cognitive delay. In ADHD, if there is a cognitive delay, we advise not to take ADHD diagnosis. Because what is a cognitive delay? Cognitive delay is inability to process information, problems with working memory, problems with retention. It is similar to inattention. So how do you know if it's a problem with information processing or inattention? So it can lead to wrong diagnosis then. In ADHD, there are 3 types of diagnosis. Inattentive type ADHD, which mainly refers to things like they are forgetful, they can't pay attention, they can't work in distractions. Even if you come and put the kettle on in the same room where a child is studying or a person, an adult is focusing on their laptop, they will get so irritated. They will snap at you. Gosh, I was trying to focus. Why do you disturb me? And you are like, come on, it was just a kettle. But they just cannot tolerate distractions. Their mind cannot stay focused. They cannot organize themselves. They are too messy. It will be an organized chaos for them. So if you see their room, they might line up their books very nicely according to their titles or height order or color order, but the rest of the room would be a mess. They just can't do it. Why? One, because they don't know how to organize. Second, their mind is racing ahead of them. They start to do one thing, but then they are thinking of the other thing. Then they notice something else. And by the end, they are so exhausted. They're like, I don't know what to do, where to start the task, how to wind it up. A person with autism, on the other hand, would be highly meticulous. They would love to clean and organize and tidy everything. So imagine a person who has both ADHD and autism. Their mental health really, really take a toll over it because their autism is compelling them to clean, to organize, but their ADHD is preventing them from achieving that level of perfection. So what they will do is they will just clean small, small parts. They will just take a small section of their wardrobe, just organize it. And they will also not like you to touch their things. They will say, leave it the way it is. These are the main similarities and differences, and I can go on talking about it. Global developmental delay was brought up by one of you. Global developmental delay, when we diagnose autism, like I said, cognitive impairment is an exclusion criteria for ADHD. Global developmental delay is an exclusion criteria for autism. Because global developmental delay, if you just look at it literally, global means all areas of your development. Developmental delay. It means there will be a delay in the speech, there will be a delay in their walking, there will be a delay in their fine motor skills, meaning ability to hold a glass and sip water or hold a crayon and scribble, and that is fine motor skills. There would be a delay in their coordination, they will be clumsy. There would be a delay in their ability to string sentences together, social skills, moral skills, everything. So, how do we diagnose autism when we know there is a delay? You have to wait. You have to wait for them to catch up. Now, in global developmental delay, there would be something called a chronological age and a mental age. Chronological age is how many years on earth have you spent? Like if you were born in 1990, until now, how many years old are you? 35, I guess. Mental age is at what level are you actually functioning? A 30-year-old can be very poorly and weak and fragile and not smart, whereas a 50-year-old could be very active running marathons. And, so there could be a difference in their every level, cognitive level, activity level, fitness level, social, sociability level. So mental age needs to be at a specific level before they can be diagnosed. So we would generally say, wait till a child catches up to a 6-year-old level, 5 to 6-year-old level, once they can speak in short sentences, once they can start to write, a 6-year-old level simply, year one, year two level, and then consider. But global developmental delay in itself means they need help. One thing I want to emphasize, which I truly, truly believe in. Remember, diagnosis is only means to an end, meaning it's more like a prescription you get from your GP. It is not defining of any person. It does not become part of the identity of the person. It is more to understand the needs. It's like east, west, south, north. Now, if a teacher in school is trying to understand, a teacher who was not trained in neurodiversity when they took teacher training, they want to know, how should I help this child? So we just point them in the right direction. That you need to use this. There are sensory needs. You need to provide them a sensory room. You need to provide. So for a child with ADHD, we say to teachers, let child use a fidget toy in class. If a child wants to keep something in their hand, may it be a squishy toy, may it be a pen to just click on, anything. Sometimes they put an elastic band around the chair where they can kick their legs. So many times I've seen teachers punishing undiagnosed children with ADHD for moving in class, for talking in class, for playing with their things in class, for finding excuses to leave their seat. It is brutal. How can you punish this child? He needs it. And that's when a diagnosis gets him the right, the leverage to ask for that support. So always remember, a diagnosis is only as good as the help it can get your child. And there are so many types of similar overlapping conditions, as indicated in the background of Mr. Vinod. All these conditions are highly overlapping. It is always good to go for a screening test first. Screening is more like a 360-degree review of your child to indicate. It's like an X-ray, it's like a blood test to understand exactly what is happening before you start the real treatment or before you do a proper diagnosis. Imagine it's like a whole body scan. So we just look at the behavioral profile of your child. We ask the school to send us a report. We ask the parent to send us a report. We give you questionnaires. And then we look at it and say, okay, this is what is likely happening with your child. This child will benefit, or this adult or this teenager will benefit from autism or ADHD or both, or learning difficulty, or this type of assessment. Or we might say, I had a recent case. A lady wanted her daughter to be assessed who was 4. And she said, diagnose her for autism, assess her for autism. And we sent her back because we said, look, she has so much speech delay that we don't know what her social skills are likely to be. So we sent her back and said, please start speech therapy. Whatever money you have for assessment, use it to get her private speech therapy first. Maybe once language comes, her social skills will also come. And by 5, if she gets some language, but still she cannot socialize, then come for autism assessment. Because remember, if a child cannot talk, they are very conscious. They feel like they can't communicate and they will hold back. So it may not be autism, it may just be a speech delay. Mr. Vinod, maybe you can ask me more specific questions now.
Sure, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shilpi. I think someone was saying they were waiting. I don't know who is waiting. Please, sorry, there were messages. So yeah, I have a few questions. I mean, it was lovely to understand the differences between, I mean, I have learned a lot, like what is autism? It's a slow progression and repetitive, whereas processing takes time for those children, whereas ADHD is more hyper, where children will be repeat because their mind is going at a faster pace than any normal person's thought processes. So they are more repetitive, more, fast talking, or they are not able to uh, control the conscious, mind. That's what I learned.
Sorry, I actually, on this point, I want to say the type of ADHD you just explained is actually hyperactive impulsive type. I was saying the types of ADHD, but then I got digressed. So, inattentive type is one type of ADHD where processing delay can be there. And that inattentive type ADHD has a huge overlap with cognitive impairment. So we don't know if it is lack of cognitive skills or so inattentive type ADHD is lack of organization, forgetfulness, cannot pay attention, easily distracted, clumsy, lack of attention to detail. And hyperactive impulsive is where you're overactive, running on a motor, impulsive, interrupting a lot, want to go first, cannot wait, cannot play board games. And the third type of ADHD is a combined type were both inattentive and hyperactive impulsive. Sorry, I just remembered that I
No,
had
thank you.
forgotten to tell this.
Thank you. On the same thing, I just remember a question that I was going to ask is a child. I mean, with children, when you explain that there are areas when they will start showing the behaviors of autism or ADHD, but for parents, identifying those patterns is a bit difficult because most of us parents are not educated in that area and it takes a long time. So is there any advice that is there any plan or strategy that we can follow or see the behavior is repetitive and record and present it to the medical professional? Is there any suggestion from you on this to us?
That's a very good question, Mr. Vinod. Thank you. I think it will also depend on the age of the child. From an early age, if I start from infancy when it's a baby, there are some very obvious signs. For example, we play peekaboo with babies. We try to tickle them. A, a baby on the spectrum, likely to be on the spectrum, will not respond. They don't giggle much. They're like very content baby, we might say. They are happy on their own. Leave them in their, whatever thing you have. There's so many different things available now, rockers and bouncers and cradle, and they are happy on their own. They don't need anything else. They don't want you to play with them. And parents might say, wow, what a wonderful baby. Don't need any attention. Some can be very, very clingy. I'm talking of autism still, that they are excessively clingy. They don't want to leave you at all. That is a sign of high anxiety and maybe physical sensory need, that they need that reassurance from you all the time. So when there is lack of balance, eye contact, again, is the baby actually looking at you? Or do you have to really like do this to them? And some babies automatically look at you. They will follow you around the room when you're in the room. Other babies are oblivion to your presence. They are just staring at the screen. They don't care whether you are in the room or not in the room, and you have to comment. So this is an early sign that they are not interested in you. If you have family gatherings, meet friends, or if you take them to mom and toddler playgroups, a toddler on autism spectrum will generally not be interested in other toddlers. They will either stay with their mom, that they don't want to leave mom, high anxiety again, or they will go find a toy of their choice, just sit wherever they are, act oblivion to other children. Or they might sit next to other children like parallel railway tracks and not share, not exchange, no eye contact. They don't play with other toddlers.
Got it. Yeah.
So social, other toddlers might be too a baby or toddler who has ADHD, they start to crawl too quickly. Like they are always like in their bouncers, just they just want to roll. And they, like, some babies you can't leave on their own. Even while changing nappy, they will just roll over and fall. So you have to literally hold them with hand and don't fall. So you feel that surge of energy in them from a very young age, that they can't be still. They're always moving their hands and legs. It looks very cute. They are very animated in their expressions. So you see that energy in them. They start to walk very early. They want to crawl very early. They want to pull themselves up very early. They can't wait. So that's a type of ADHD symptom. As they start school, obviously for autism, one of the most obvious thing is social. Initially, every child takes time to make friends, but generally within first month, children usually find someone to play with. So always seek that feedback from the teachers. Is my child actually engaging with others? Now, in terms of others, a child with autism may choose one person at a time. They become overly fixated, overly attached to one person.
I, I have a question just relates to this one. Um, let's say a child is in school who is having autism, and then he's in the school, has a connected friend, like you mentioned, one friend or maybe more than one, and is there for a while, let's say a few years, and then suddenly for some reason the family or for some whatever reason they have to change the school. I have heard, but I want your expert,
Mhm.
views on this. I've heard when we make the shift in this entire setup of his, environment, from having the same classroom for years,
Mhm.
having the same friends or same boys around the TAs and work and or whatever, suddenly shifting that does build some kind of behavioral changes within the children who has got autism. Any lights on that area?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me one thing, Mr. Vinod. We all are here. We came from our home countries to this country. How was the transition? Was it easy or was it hard?
Definitely, it's a different
Super
culture and
hard. I mean,
super hard
even
to
for me,
learn.
I will say I came for my PhD 20 years ago, and I came for a PhD in autism 20 years ago when nobody even talked about it. So, it was super hard. Changes are never easy, never. Struggle, like they said. And it take us a very long time. We are on our own. So, and we were like adults. We were secure adults who had been raised in stable, consistent, social, collective Indian environments or Pakistani or, Asian environments. Our culture is collective. Even if there is not family, someone will knock at the door 10 times a day. May it be the newspaper guy, the ironing guy, the grocery guy, somebody or else is always ringing the doorbell. And even if you step out, people would look at you, make eye contact, ask you if you are okay. There is a social warmth. So we were so secure with good social skills, raised in a social environment, and still we were thrown off balance. Our mental health suffered. So, what do we expect from young, fragile children who are like soft clay? They don't even have that sort of confidence or personality. So, for any child, change is extremely hard. But if you move a person with autism or ADHD it is even harder because learning to cope in an environment is so hard for them. They somehow manage to adapt, but then you change it. Now, let's take this example of COVID lockdown. Why do you think autism and neurodiversity became so obvious after COVID? I mean, ask me because I've had a PhD in autism for 20 years now, and I could never find a job in autism. I taught at universities, but I could never diagnose autism as a full time job. Why? Because there was no need. Educational psychologists hired through the education councils were enough. They didn't need to diagnose. They used to just assess within school, make an EHCP or IEP plan, and offer support. What do you think COVID did that brought up this whole tsunami of so many cases? I've seen companies emerge from I don't know where. Like from I started remote assessments in 2020 when lockdown had just hit. It was the Devon and Torbay NHS Trust, who was one of the first to start autism assessments remotely online. And I was a member of their team. And there is a very renowned professor, Simon Baron Cohen at Cambridge University, who leads in autism research. And he had also contacted me for data on it because they said, wow, you are diagnosing autism online. We need data. We want to see how it is done. So why did so many cases come up after COVID? Any thoughts, Mr. Vinod?
Basically, I mean, as we know, I mean, as I know, uh, Einstein also was autistic, and that's what I've read. I don't know. That's what was on the Google. But during the COVID, I believe a lot of people were, in the same room, same house, not going out, and restricted environment and little of social interaction, and that was the trigger, I believe, where people were experiencing that kind of difference that they uh, noticed during those 2.5 years, that they are very restricted in a room or can't go out, can't interact, only phone or see people. There was no social interaction. That was the main cause where people started talking about autism in the offices, everywhere I would see, and there was a bit of education. That's what I personally saw in
No,
my.
absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing your views. What you described led to mental health difficulties and feelings of isolation and depression and low mood. People with autism found that to be a blessing, lack of social contact. They thought, wow, this is nice. I don't have to interact with anyone. I can be on my own. Finally. I they sometimes said it was such a blessing to be on my own when I didn't have to interact with anyone. I could just take online lessons and get on, especially for teenagers. But what COVID lockdown was fine. But the way government dealt with it, that they did a lockdown for 6 months, they opened it for a few months, and then they did the lockdown again, and then they reopened. So that change, like you had asked me the original question of changing schools, that change was what threw them off the balance. Before COVID lockdown, they didn't know any other world. Like when we go back to our hometowns now, tell me honestly, I mean, I'm from Delhi, when I go to Delhi now, I can't believe I was raised there. I mean, I can see the flaws. I can see what is not right about that city. And I can't believe how was I so happy here? Why did I ever cry in leaving this city? Especially when my children will say, Mom, what is this? Is it a safari park? Why are there cows and dogs and all the animals on the road? So, because we did not know any other world. For us, our hometown was everything. But now that we have seen other worlds, we go back and we can see the flaws. So, for a person who was neurodiverse or any special need, they did not know any other world. They knew they have to go to school, they have to adjust, and they were used to it. They had developed a habit of coping with it. But lockdown showed them another world. it is possible to not mask. It is possible to live in my own world, and I love it. I don't want to socialize. I'm bullied in my secondary school. I can't make friends. I feel lonely. But then schools reopened, and that was really hard for them. How do I cope now? They tried maybe in 3, 4 months. Many of them dropped out in after first wave only. They could not cope. Some who managed to cope, they readjusted. But then the lockdown happened again. So imagine 20% dropped out after first lockdown. Remaining 20, 30% was still suffering. So the percentage just kept increasing. After second lockdown, 40% further dropped out because they had somehow managed to readjust in the schools, but then the government put them in their homes again. And secondly, like you were saying, there was no structure for them at school, at home, sorry. There was no structure for them at home. Parents were struggling with their own online meetings, trying to get things done. And so they didn't know what to do. They needed someone to tell them what to do. They were wasting their whole day just sitting around. So many people with autism and ADHD, when we diagnose as a clinician, I'm telling you, one of the biggest challenges we face is getting evidence from school. We cannot diagnose a person without evidence from two settings. We need evidence from one more setting. If it's a child, we need home and school. If it's an adult, we need workplace or a friend or someone to give us evidence. Schools will say, good as gold. Oh, this child is really good. He's
Amazing.
always so quiet. He never
Yeah.
disturbs me. I'm talking of a child with autism.
Yes.
He's, but teachers don't notice that this child is actually sad. They are quiet because they can't make friends. They don't know who to talk to. They are withdrawing within themselves. But they are thriving because there is structure, there is consistency. They know what to expect every day. You put in a supply teacher there and ask them how the child is doing. You reshuffle their classes and then ask them how the child is doing. A child with ADHD gets more easily identified because they are disruptive. But a child with autism who is quiet in school, it's like a soda bottle effect. They come home and they blast. They start to snap at parents. They are just moody. They cry, and a parent is like, what is this? I've got a meeting to go back to. I wasn't chilling in a spa at home. I was also working. I need you to just crack on. And they are just like, I had such a bad day at school. They can't communicate because they don't understand what is going on with them. But they have been suppressing the whole day, and it goes boom when they come back home. And that's when we struggle because school won't give us anything. And the parents are like, we cannot continue like this.
So, I'll just take a few questions that we had in the chat box. The question was, how do we know it's because of lack of interest or is it because of attention disorder? I think Dr. Shilpi explained we need to assess uh, correct me if I'm wrong. We need to assess the pattern of the sensory needs and then see whether it is related to
Yeah, lack of
autism
interest, you
or
simply ask your child. You know,
it
you know
depends if the
whether your
child is
child.
non-verbal. I'm saying the worst scenario where the child is non-verbal.
No, but you as a parent, I think, even a non-verbal child has their own ways of communicating, pointing, gestures. And I think parents do have that superpower, their gut feeling.
I'm giving from my experience where child is blind, non-verbal. In
Hmm.
that scenario, we can only go on, patterns, identifying patterns and see whether it
Absolutely.
is. So that was the worst example which I have gone through and just thought to share my views on that.
Of course. Thank
So,
you.
and it's same about the attention disorder. I mean, I think you explained that. Or is there anything else that you want to add, Dr. Shilpi?
Sorry, what is the question?
The question was, how do we know it's because of lack of interest or is it because of attention disorder? Um,
Because you just basically you know whether or not your child is, so if you are having a gathering, is your child going towards people or moving away from people? If your child wants to be a part of the discussions, but they just can't keep up or they get distracted, so they will interact for a bit. So you will know. You don't have to just see social settings, you see otherwise also. Do they lack? You will know because they're always fiddling between different things. They can't keep their mind to one thing. They can't read. Lack of attention would mean they can't write, they can't read because their mind is constantly racing. Reading comprehension you can try at home. For attention deficit, best thing is give them a simple piece of story or a poem, simple for their level, and then ask them to read it and then ask them simple questions. Who was the character in the story? Who was happy? Why? Can they register and remember? Now that's the overlap with cognitive impairment then. You need to know if it is inattention or cognitive, but finding out inattention is easy. You will know.
Yeah, just associated another sentence with that question was suspend child with special need for their behavior in a class. Who the punishment is for, children does not understand. That is into bracket that it's punishment or is it for the parents for having special need child? I think in my view it is like Dr. Shilpi said, diagnosis is important so that that gives a record for the TAs to follow, and they can't give the child this punishment. That's what I understood from this earlier suggestion or advice by Dr. Shilpi. Um, is there anything else to add to this, Dr. Shilpi?
Sorry, I'm not sure about the question. I know it's
So
a
the
very
question,
sensitive topic, punishment in class, but I think it's a very complex issue and it depends on the personal case. The best thing is to have open communication with your child and the teacher. Punishment is obvious in schools. If you don't follow rules, you get punished. So you need to ask the child, do you understand? So maybe when teacher is punishing, ask teacher for a simple, what is the rule that my child did not follow? And teach your child this strategy. Ask the teacher, what can I do to avoid this punishment? Or what should I do in the future so I don't get punished? Simple. You have to be very objective about it. Teacher needs to be very clear. Use written logs, reading, they have reading logs in schools. Always rely on that because then teachers can't manipulate or, teachers also get frustrated. They are also humans. So you have to go in writing. Put it in writing. Simply, my child was really upset. He was recently punished. I understand. Might have done something. Could you help me understand? What was the problem and how can I help him improve in the future?
okay, we'll just take, I think we have got very little time, 3 minutes left, and I know you have to go. We'll take two questions. I think two of them has raised their hands. I don't know. I'll just say
No, that's fine. I will take
SP.
that question.
Yeah, ask uh, Mr. SP. I don't know if you could.
Oh, yeah. So I'm Suresh.
Mhm.
Um, my child is 10 years old. She has various meltdowns and sometimes tantrums after coming back from school. So as you mentioned that it happens
Yeah,
in
from what,
some sense,
yeah,
how to
I will
manage.
love to hear more, but from what you are explaining, I think she's struggling in school. She's masking in school. Masking means she's trying her best to follow the rules or be the good child. And I think at home she just takes it all out then. Because best thing to do would be, when she comes back from school. What age did you say? 10?
10 years, yeah.
10. When she comes back from school, leave her alone for at least an hour or 90 minutes. Demand avoidance. Do not place any demand. Like if you had a busy day, a hard day at work, Mr. SP, will you like anyone to bother you or talk to you or snap at you or demand from you? You will say, leave me alone. Let me just recover from my busy day. So, whatever I allow my children to go on their screen, have chocolate, whatever, after school is a recovery time for an hour or so. Take your time, get in a good mood, and then we will talk. So, whatever it is that she likes doing, may it be watching her screen, may it be going to her room and sitting alone, whatever it is, you ask her, I'm here to help you, but if you want to be alone, you are allowed to be. So, 90 minutes after you come back from school are yours. And after that, we will sit and do 30-minute homework. Just make a timetable and talk to her. Try and ask her, what is it that is bothering her? I will take next question, please.
Thank you.
Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You are on mute.
I think it's Lokesh ji who raised the hand first, so we'll go with him first, and then
Mhm.
Zobi ji. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Vinod. My question, I'm Lokesh, Dr. Shilpa. Thank you very much. Question is, my child, I believe, has got the potential. He's autistic. I'm
Mhm.
looking for a speech therapist, whether it is online. I'm going around in circles in this, and I'm trying to organize with the school and everything. Busy, resource is very less. If you could suggest any links, or if you do anything like a speech
I
therapist.
So speech therapy, it also depends on your budget. If it is private, there's a lot of factors, and I think a couple other people had also put on the group for speech therapy. I do have a team member. If you go on my website, in my team, you will see there is a member, Rachel Baker. She's a speech. Well, I live in Solihull. I know it's a group of UK parents. Where do you live, Mr. Lukesh?
Peterborough,
Where?
Peterborough, Peterborough.
Petersburg, so you are a bit far. So she is local to Birmingham. Um, it depends. So one thing I will suggest, which one of my very close friends also did, was take online speech therapy from India.
Okay.
Because if it is
Obviously,
online speech therapy, why not try there are so many online courses now available from Asian countries, especially India, coding, maths, English, and they are much more affordable. So I unfortunately don't have any reference for you, but
okay.
I will strongly recommend you to explore that option.
All
If it
right.
is local speech and language therapy, and you have money but you can't find one, um, there there's one in Birmingham. I know my colleague, and I can ask her. I don't know if you can travel to Birmingham or what she does, but I can certainly ask her if she can do anything. I don't think she will do online. I think she's only doing in person.
Got it. And the problem with going overseas is accreditation, because here we understand we can rely on the experience and the qualifications. If you go
Well,
online,
that you
that's a
will have
bit
to go by reviews. You will
okay.
have to go by the reviews, and you will know if the person, because depends on what level of speech difficulty it is, because sometimes they are so behind that any help would help. That it's
Got it.
about getting them started.
I
But
think
I wouldn't hesitate in exploring that option. You can
Brilliant.
go by reviews, you can sit in a couple of sessions and get the session, get them to record the session for quality control. But I will not shy away from exploring that option. I take online classes for my children from India for some other things like chess and coding, and I think it's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
thank you. We'll take the last question. So Zobi ji, yeah, please unmute yourself and
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you very much. And my question is, I have a child. He's 12 years old, and since he was born, he is like showing sign of focus problem while only studying. So when he was in year four, the primary school did the educational psychologist report that they are having the problems. So my husband was not agreed that he is fine. There is no problem with my son and all the stuff. I said he's just still complaining. He started year one complaining. He is unable to focus in the class, in the homework, and all the stuff, and still going on. And he's not in year eight, and I'm still on the waiting list. I don't know since September, and they are saying the waiting time is 12 months. And he's in the home. He's saying, "Mommy, you're making chop chop all the time. If even I am spitting like I'm eating almonds, like if you are sitting next to me, you will not be here. You will not. It will not bother you, but it is bothering my son." So as a mother, he's saying, "Mommy, you're making chop 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 chop." So sometime if he is not saying, he is not feeling it, he's still saying, "Mommy, you are making chop chop." and we can't sleep in the same room. Even his room is separate now because my
So he's
husband.
easily distractible. You are saying he's very easily distractible.
Yes, noises. He's sensitive to noises. Number one problem, and second problem is he can't focus. If you give Ahmad, if you finish your work, and you give the phone to Ahmad, he won't be able to finish the homework all night. He will sit on the phone and doing all the stuff. So my husband will sit next to my child, and then he will be able to finish the homework. That's the problem. He's a 12 years old big child. So do you know any private doctor for assessment of ADHD or autism? So
I do assessments as well, but the point is you can get him privately assessed, and there will be a lot of other options online. But you need to have that. Zobia, you there?
yeah, I'm listening. Yes, I'm
All right.
listening.
Yeah. The point is you need to have a dialogue with his school. If you spend that money on a private assessment, will the school actually help him? So they can help him by giving extra exam time. They can help him by giving an extra TA support one-to-one. They can help him by giving, smaller chunks of work or less homework and things like that. So,
no, sorry. So what's your question? Will school be able to help my child?
yeah, if you spend that money on getting a private diagnosis, will the school accept it and give your son the extra support he needs?
Since year 7 he started the high school. The school is like, I was after school, like he's having a problem, he's a special needs child, and I keep saying, and now
Okay,
since
but what do
September
they
they said
want?
it's fine.
How
we
are
will
they
we
going
will
to?
recommend to the CAMS, and he is
I
on the
think,
CAMS list.
so sorry, Zobiji, because of the time, I know Dr. Shilpi ji has to go. What I would suggest you is, instead of telling the story, what happened, just say what you need and
Yeah,
work on
how
it.
can I help?
Yes, work on that, like do an assessment and probably do whether it's a private assessment or if you want to do
If you
through
need a
NHS.
private assessment, you can
Yes,
contact
please.
me. Yes, we
Okay,
can do
private
private
assessment. Yes,
But
please.
Zobia, I don't want you to spend your money because it's a expensive assessment. I want you to ask the school first. If I get my child a private diagnosis, will
Yeah.
you then give him extra help in school? Okay? Only if they
Okay.
give it to you in writing, and write an email to them. Okay? If they
Okay.
say yes, if you get a private diagnosis, we will offer him extra help, you go for it. Or you use that money to get him one-to-one tuitions or small group tuitions for whichever subject he's struggling.
Because
Okay?
the problem is that he's going for GCSE. The problem is he's a big boy, and it's a few years
That's
left
fine.
of
You
his
can discuss
education.
it with,
So
if you
no,
want private assessment, contact me, okay?
yeah. Thank you
Thank,
very much. Thank you.
You're very
thank you,
welcome.
Zobiji.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was a wonderful session, and thank you everyone
Thank you
for
very much for inviting me here. If you all liked my session, I will request you all to just leave a review on Trustpilot, please, for my company. And I will be very happy to speak to you all again, and Mr. Vinod can arrange something. But please do leave a review if you found it helpful.
Yeah, I have also shared the website and the YouTube link and radio show clip here in the chat message. Please go through that, and please contact or send any further questions on the group chat. And hopefully, Dr. Shilpi will try to answer if she can. So,
And if
thank
you
you.
want to get your child screened or diagnosed, we do have private service available. Right? Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice
everyone.
meeting you all. Thank
And
you, Mr.
good
Vinod.
night.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye
much.
now.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.